Back in 1996, when you first slipped the Tomb Raider disc into your favourite game machine, you weren't just loading up another game. You were stepping into something new, becoming part of pop culture history. Lara Croft, female lead who wasn't a psychic, wasn't a token, and wasn't waiting to be rescued. She was strong, independent, fierce, new, exciting, and everywhere. By the time Hollywood came knocking, we were already 5 games in as many years. Tomb Raider changed how games looked, played, and were marketed. They had a golden run with Tomb Raider 1 through 3, and then we got 4 and Chronicles, which, well, in hindsight, might have been a bit soon, but people were still lapping them up. Lara wasn't just a video game character, she was a full-blown brand. She was flogging Lucozade in adverts, plastered over magazine covers, even popping up in U2's Pop Night tour. She wasn't confined to pixels anymore, she'd crossed over. It's fair to say that she was the first A-list celebrity born from pixels and polygons. Almost inevitably, in 2001, we got a film. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. And I guess that's the first thing to know, the name. Lara Croft, first and foremost. Although the Tomb Raider part would be bigger on the film posters, I guess they were hedging the bets on that one. Hollywood were clearly banking on character recognition before anything else from the start. The first question to answer would be, who's going to play her? The press went wild with speculation, all kinds of names were being bandied about, but director Simon West always insisted it was going to be Angelina Jolie. Yeah, that casting was controversial. An American playing Britain's most famous adventurer. Fans weren't sold. Angelina Jolie always had a wild tabloid reputation at the time. Knives, tattoos, the blood vials with Billy Bob Thornton, etc. Not exactly a safe choice in a lot of people's eyes, but once on screen, Angelina Jolie nailed it. She was Laura, the attitude, the movies. Honestly, it's hard to imagine anyone else in that role as Laura now. But make no mistake, it was one of the things that nearly killed it before it got going. Now, Angelina Jolie might have been able to convince the world she was Laura, but even the intrepid adventurer needed a sporting cast. First up, Hilary, an ageing but faithful butler found wandering the halls of Croft Manor, following Laura around like a puppy dog, and often finding himself locked in a fridge for his troubles. In the games, he spelled his name Winston, which is a bit weird, but anyhow. In the film, he's fairly young and played by Chris Berry. Joining Laura and Hilary at Croft Manor, Bryce, a young tech genius responsible for building all Laura's gadgets and toys. He's played by Noah Taylor. Not an unknown at the time, but his face hadn't been around in much in Hollywood either. He was a character created for the film, so he doesn't appear in the game at all, but a welcome addition to the team. Also, a helpful way to explain the usual what she finds at the start of the film. Laura's dad also makes an appearance, even though he's long since passed in both game and film, and played here by Angelina Jolie's real-life father, John Voight. And of course, we'll tip our hats to the late but great Lizzie Phillips, who had a small role as Wilson, a friend of Laura's late father who keeps one eye on her and helps her out from time to time. Well, I say that, but at some point he's got involved with the villains of the piece, Alex West, played by Daniel Craig, and Manfred Powell, played by Ian Glenn. These two are members of the Illuminati, who are the main villains of the film. And yeah, you're right, the Illuminati were never really part of the Tomb Raider games. But back in 2001, every blockbuster villain plot eventually came back to shadow men in roles fretting about a planetary alignment. It was a thing, don't ask. Which brings us nicely to the plot though. Hollywood went off and did their own thing with the story of the game, which is fair enough. At that point, Laura had been on so many different adventures it didn't really matter which thread they pulled. So instead we got something very of its time. The story properly kicks off when we see the Illuminati fretting about this planetary alignment. It will let them reassemble the Triangle of Light, a mystical artifact that can control time. The problem being they don't have the key to unlock it. Back at the manor, Laura discovers a mysterious ticking clock hidden by her father along with some equally cryptic letters. And I bet you can't guess what that clock really is, can you? To be fair, that kind of mystical nonsense was nothing new. The games had already thrown Atlantis, the Dagger of Zion and Cursed Meteorites at us. So time-controlling triangle? Honestly, it fits right in. Soon enough, her house gets raided, the clock's stolen, and she's swept into a race against the Illuminati. We soon find our hero in Cambodia, battling Manfred Powell and Alex West. There's a temple, puzzles, and well, it's all quite Tomb Raider-y, really. Laura figures out what nobody else can, and then it all kicks off for a bit. A boss puzzle, if you like. She does what Laura does and escapes with half the triangle, but not the clock. The bad guys try to offer Laura a deal, dangling the idea that the triangle could bring him back a dead father. She reluctantly plays along, and that leads us to Siberia for the final throwdown. There's an honorary contraption, a collapsing tomb, and the bad guys make a move to clear the triangle. Laura gets a vision of her father urging her to destroy it and not use it, which she does, after rewinding time just long enough to make some changes that save the day. Hooray! But nobody was buying a ticket for the story. It was almost irrelevant so long as Laura was there. It wasn't smooth behind the scenes. 11 scriptwriters came and went before Simon West rewrote most of it himself. Stephen E. D'Souza of Street Fighter infamy handled early jobs that were binned, which is probably for the best all things considered. Daniel Craig, He hated the film, called it nonsense. But the finished film throws in plenty of nods for the fans. Quite a lot in the first few moments of the film as well. The opening training montage of her squaring off against a robot would see Laura pull out some of her moves. Dual pistol wielding, backflips while drawing weapons. Rolls along the floor as she turns around. It's all there. Even the reloading of the weapons is explained, which is kind of a pro move when it comes to giving nods to games. It's very much a time capsule of the early 2000s filmmaking, slow motion flips, rope swings and giant CGI statues coming to life. Obviously, Hollywood couldn't resist leaning into Laura's sex symbol status either. Remember the old nude radar cheat code that never actually existed? That was the cultural baggage the films kind of had to deal with. Just look at Relic Hunter, which was basically Tomb Raider on a TV budget before Hollywood came along. That was essentially Tia Carrere spending half the show in her underwear for, well, reasons.
You cannot put just one item into a machine. This is wasteful. It must be full.
And that's what the audience was being sold back then, and the studio clearly wanted to tap into the same thing. Early drafts of the film included shower scenes, skinny dipping, and even entire gags around Laura's body being used to distract her opponents. Even her cleavage is an actual weapon in some scenes. Angelina Jolie pushed back most of it, but they clearly wanted to sell her as both an action hero and a fantasy figure. We did end up with a little pseudo-nudity, just a short shower scene with some side boob, which I won't say is disappointing, but surprising. She eventually agreed to it to mainly please her fans. She admitted she felt practically naked for the first few days of filming. Those early 2000s were brutal for over-sexualising female leads.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
And for the record, yes, apparently Angelina Jolie suggested Laura have a mohawk. That idea died fast, thankfully. If you were still in any doubt about the year, just check the soundtrack. The Chemical Brothers, Basement Jaxx and Nine Inch Nails. I could go on with this list, but the soundtrack read like a who's who of music at the time. It's wall-to-wall new metal and club tracks. Subtle? Not at all, but the soundtrack alone stamps the film firmly in its era. Still, the marketing push was massive. It was marketed like a tentpole, and it actually paid off. For once, a video game adaptation outgrossed expectations. The critics? They tore it apart, brutally and without remorse. The audiences, though, they showed up, including me. I was there opening that, and I loved it. Sure, I laughed at some of the dodgy effects, or skeletons one step up for Jason and the Argonauts, and not in a good way. I even spotted tattoos Laura wasn't supposed to have. But none of that mattered. It was Lara Croft on screen, overblown, ridiculous, but fun. And that's all I wanted it to be, and all it needed to be. Turns out I wasn't alone. It pulled nearly 300 million worldwide, smashing past the first Pokemon movie to become the highest grossing video game adaptation. It held that crown for almost a decade until Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time in 2010, and held the domestic record for 18 years until Detective Pikachu came along. For Hollywood, that was proof enough. They might not have understood how or why it worked, but it did. As an adaptation, it's messy, dated, and remembered more for Angelina Jolie than for the story. What the film never really captured was the atmosphere of the games. Those early Tomb Raiders were quiet, eerie at times even. You spend minutes or even hours just hearing Laura's footsteps echo through empty ruins before anything happened, broken only by the occasional
No.
as she refused to do anything you wanted. That said, thankfully, Angelina manages to move with more style and grace. It's as though she never heard of the tank controls. The movie, well, that never shuts up. Funny really, and a little ironic. There would of course be a sequel, The Cradle of Life, that would hit the cinema a couple of years later. No spoilers, but well, it didn't do quite as well. That's a different video for a different time. The games, well, they're still with us in one form or another. They've moved with the times and gone through 2 full reboots at this point. The most recent reboot, the Survivor trilogy, took Laura off in a new direction. They reinvented her story and told it from a younger venture to being the seasoned veteran we see in the original game. The series would come with its own film reboot in 2018, but again, that's a different video. There's been an animated Netflix TV show which, well, could have done better, and at the time of this video there were rumours of a new live TV adaptation that works from Amazon, but well, details are sparse on that and I won't delve into rumours. It's fair to say that the film helped cement Lara Croft in pulp culture forever. Early 2000s blockbuster excess wrapped in a gaming icon with Angelina Jolie at the peak of her swagger. It's not perfect, it's not even close, but it is unforgettable. If you like this video, let me know by pressing that thumbs up button. Subscribe as well if you want while you're there. Why not? I'll be here all the same. Anyway, I've been Paul and this was Pixels Popcorn. Thanks for watching.